This is VSiN By The Books on VSiN, the sports betting network.
We begin hour number 2. It is VSiN By The Books. I'm Dave Ross here, Circus Sports Fabulous Las Vegas, Nevada. Our closer, Jensen Lewis, back home in Cleveland, Ohio. A lot to get to here in the course of the next 2 hours. Of course, the Final Four is set in the NBA and the NHL. We are going to talk to Will Hill, all things NBA, and then Rachel Dory, all things NHL. How do you think Rachel in Toronto as a whole is holding up this morning after the Maple Leafs get eliminated last night by Florida?
She, to her credit, she said, I'm fully prepared.
She was ready
to be upset. And again, I think when you've seen this movie as many times as you have, you get yourself ready emotionally to have that same ending. You do what it does. I mean, this was a pretty spectacular defeat, no question about it.
Yeah, we always say in sports, right? I'm ready to get my heart broken again. Are you? Because it feels like they got their heart broken again north of the border with Toronto. So we'll catch up with Rachel. And I know in New York and Will's there in Connecticut, they are fired up for the Knicks to get this Eastern Conference final beginning on Wednesday against Indiana. But without further ado, hour number 2, it's time for our highlights and headlines.
Help your bottom line with today's highlights and headlines.
We talked about it in hour number 1 with Cody Decker, that Brandon Hyde, they're 15-30. They're 0-2 without Brandon Hyde as manager. They fired him after the 15-28 start there in Charm City. And there's a lot of things. And Jensen, you guys, and Cody, you guys have gone through this as players when you have changes to the staff and then the managers let go as well. It didn't feel fair from an outside perspective. That management really kind of hamstrung Brandon Hyde here a little bit. But these are the decisions that get made. What do you make of it? And is it a reflection on Hyde or more on the front office?
Well, first and foremost, the front office dealt him a horrific hand to try and play with. And again, knowing that you have what we saw, at least the last couple of seasons, Dave, as maybe one of the best young offensive cores for years to come. Now, I had said when Anthony Santander left to go to Toronto, I'm like, I'm very intrigued just from a lineup construction standpoint, how Brandon Hyde it fills it out each and every day, because it was amazing the plug and play nature of Santander and how he allowed the flexibility for Hyder around. That now has been replaced with Gunnar Henderson having to be put in the 3 spot when he's been so great as a leadoff hitter. Jackson Holliday now has to be elevated up to the leadoff spot. But let's face it, it gets back to the pitching staff and most notably the rotation. You can't convince me one way or the other that a team with the deepest farm system in baseball doesn't go out and entertain trying to make a splash move in an American League, Dave, which we have harped on since the beginning of the year, is so wide open.
Yeah.
How do you not go and at least try and replace Corbin Burns with as close to, if not level, with that front of the rotation type talent? That will be the thing that I think Oriole fans will look back on if this season goes the way that it is right now. And by the way, they're 11-1 to make the postseason.
What?
11-1 on DraftKings. That is just unfathomable.
It should be 100
considering
to 1.
The talent offensively.
Yes, this is that's a joke. And by the way, you want to look at the numbers and say maybe it's some hard luck? No. The worst run differential in Major League Baseball, of course, is the Colorado Rockies. And it's not close with a historically bad team like the Rocks. They're minus 144 runs. The second worst in baseball, your Baltimore Orioles, minus 85 in run differential. I don't see any hope 15 games under. I could not bet that 11-1 to make the playoffs. Divisional odds 40-1 to win the pennant. What are you, crazy? 60-1 and to win the World Series. Come on. So I look at that. They've lost 6 in a row, 2 in a row since they fired Hyde. And the rest of the division's been pretty underwhelming as well. Everybody else is under 500 with the exception of the Yankees. But I'm sure Brandon Hyde's thinking it's not me as a manager. It's in conjunction with the players that you did not re-sign, that you let go, like the Corbin Burns, Santanders, as you mentioned, and not getting replacements for that. What did you want me to do? So this is the bed that the Oriole management has laid in, and right now it doesn't look pretty. When you have a run differential of minus 85, good luck the rest of the way. Good luck in San Francisco paying some other guys. You had to pay Brock Purdy. They did. 5 years, $265 million It's got a $181 million guarantee with that in the 265. Remember, he was Mr. Irrelevant back in the 2022 draft, so he was cheap for a while. He's not cheap anymore, 5-year extension, but it's really that guaranteed money at 181. Look, I saw some people going, what are you thinking, San Francisco? That's why you were able to be successful, because you had him so cheap. Now when you pay for Brock, can you feed all the other mouths that you have to feed at some point?
That's going to be the ultimate question, right? And in a division that I think you and I agree is improved, even with where the Seattle Seahawks are and what that will look like now with a pretty overwhelmingly new offense outside of the backfield in Kenneth Walker. But I do look towards a couple of intriguing markets. And Dave, I'll throw these out to you right now. DraftKings, Niners to miss the postseason altogether is plus $1.65. Okay, so not as long as maybe you would anticipate. To lose in the wild card round, plus 240. Lose in the divisional round, plus 370. Lose in the conference championship game, 9-1. And if they make it to the Super Bowl and come up short, 18-1. Now, I think more as we look at the NFC, and a lot going to be predicated off of what does Philly do with an absolutely gargantuan schedule that they've got to go up against. But if you're looking for, those bridesmaids or those, kind of people that are right there and ready to go, if they have the injury issues they did last year offensively, that's not a guy in Brock Purdy that wins you games by himself. And so I think that's the bigger thing to me is you give all this money. Can he single-handedly win you a game? I don't think so, and that's why I would never have given him that kind of money, just knowing that off the jump.
Permission to approach the bench, Your Honor. Okay, here's where I'll push back. And we're going to break down their schedule here in the next segment to look at the win totals here in their schedule in depth with a couple other teams as well. But this is John Lynch, Kyle Shanahan saying, I did my job, John Lynch, as the GM to draft him as Mr. Irrelevant. I did my job, Kyle Shanahan, as a head coach, developing Mr. Irrelevant into a very relevant player. And our offense doesn't go, gasp, without Brock Purdy. Can we make that counter argument that we had to pay him the money because without it, Jensen, it's not a plug and play. Trey Lance couldn't do it. That's why he's no longer even, I don't think he's in football right now, right? Or wherever he is. But that this was the right guy. We tried it with Trey as a number 3 pick, and then we got Mr. Irrelevant, but we figured out, maybe by going through a couple other guys it didn't work out, that this is the guy we have to have in the fold, and now he's locked up, and it's all systems go.
All right, so, and I'll leave you with this thought, and for our audience as well. Brock Purdy is being paid more than Justin Herbert, Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts, your Dak Prescott, Kyler Murray, even Deshaun Watson. The only guys making more money than Brock Purdy are Joe Burrow, Trevor Lance, Josh Allen, and Patrick Mahomes. Now, you tell me what doesn't fit in that list. I'll tell you what.
A lot of Super Bowls, a lot of MVPs, certainly out there for guys he's getting paid more than. I will say this, though, in all seriousness, they have to get this right because you are staking your reputation as a head coach and as a GM because if they get this wrong, look, when you get Trey Lance wrong, that's an easy fix, right? That's a draft pick.
Sure.
And certainly you don't want to lose a top 3 pick and waste that. That's normally not a good thing, but you got, I don't say lucky, but you did your due diligence to get this guy as Mr. Irrelevant, so it made up for it. Like you made up the wrong of wasting that top pick. You got to get this right because now with the money, it really will handicap and hamstring the rest of your organization if this money is not money well spent. So I'm with you. The other quarterbacks that you mentioned, most of those, Deshaun Watson obviously be the outlier of where you got it wrong. You can't miss this because if Purdy is not who they say he is, this would set back the franchise. And then all those plays that you mentioned, Jensen, to miss the playoffs. We'll talk about the win total coming up. They would be in play to go unders and or bet against if Brock Purdy is not the guy they have now invested in.
The Niners are plus 650 to be the 1 seed in the NFC. So only the Eagles have a better number than they do. Eagles are plus 310. All right, now the schedule for people watching on VSiN Watch at VSiN.com. The beginning of that schedule, at least the first 4 weeks, and always difficult to go to Seattle. We know it's a tough place to play.
But you could be 4-0.
But Dave, if I'm that was exactly where I went. There should be a 4 in that win column if you are the Niners going into that Thursday night football game against one of your biggest rivals in the Rams within a division. You do that alleviates a boatload of pressure on John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan. You go 2-2 in that stretch, especially knowing you got the Jags at home and you got a divisional game against the Cardinals at home. Hey now, you're gonna hear a lot of issues and a lot of complaining if Brock Purdy doesn't live up to that contract in the first 4 weeks.
A 2-2 start against that schedule would not bode well. To hit the over 10.5 right now, you get plus money at that at plus $1.10. If you're going to bet them for 11 or more wins, you better come out of there 3-1 at the worst. By the way, you got to check out the VSiN Daily Morning Bets podcast. Making it your first look here at the day's betting line, sharp action, market movements. In just 15 minutes, you're going to get everything you need to know to make your wagers much smarter and stay ahead of the line moves, all before you have that first cup of joe in the day. It's hosted by VSiN's team of trusted betting experts. So the Daily Morning Bets podcast, fast, focused, built for bettors like you out there. So listen to the VSiN Daily Morning Bets pod wherever you get your podcasts, or get it on the VSiN Watch app. The sharpest way to start your betting day is with the VSiN Daily Morning Bets podcast.
You're tuned in to VSiN By The Books, right here on VSiN.
We're back, VSiN By The Books. Dave Ross, Jensen Lewis here. Going to get to the Daily Diamond in the next segment. It's been on fire over the last couple weeks here, so we'll break down everything in Major League Baseball. But we do want to continue our conversation here in the NFL with the schedule releases coming out last week, because as we mentioned here in the big board behind us at Circa, it's a lot of football these days now. Already starting, again, these numbers are going to get beat into submission as the summer goes. So sometimes you can get ahead of some of these numbers before they change and try to find some value in it. And that's why we're breaking down all of these schedules for each team. We talked about the Niners. Their win total is sitting at 10.5. This was a 6-win team a year ago. Now, I know injuries, and a lot of people want to throw that away and just say, hey, that was last year. We're going to revert right back to being the Niners of old. If you're betting the over, Jensen, that's what you're betting on. That this team now, as I mentioned in the last segment with John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan, you trust the brain trust that the changes, jettisoning a guy like Deebo Samuel to DC, right? Trying to turn over that offensive line a little bit, paying Brock Purdy, that you do have enough weapons on the outside, that Christian McCaffrey's going to stay healthy, that you've revamped the defense. That's a lot of pieces to get to 11 wins for this team. But the schedule, when you look at the schedule, it does look doable from that vantage point. I just don't know that the roster is as good as we're used to with the Niners.
Very easy as far as opponents that made the playoffs last year. Just a couple of them, right? We have the Bucks and the Texans, and really looking forward, even having the latest bye there in Week 14. They should be able to take care of a lot of business. Again, I focused on that first 4 weeks because you need to pile up those wins.
Mm-hmm.
And again, everyone's fresh for the trip to Seattle, up the coast there. And then going to New Orleans, it's not like it's middle of the year, later in the year, where a little bit of a body clock stretch for you and everyone is fatigued. I look at the middle stretch here when they have to go to Houston, and then also you have to go to the Giants. Potential slip-up spot there for that Giants game, knowing you have the Rams at home and then the Cardinals back on the road. So a little stretch there depending on what they look like. But overall, again, I understand why their number to be the number 1 seed in the NFC is as short as it is. All that being said, Dave, I go back to my original thoughts here. Completely different look with this offense if they're healthy, right? And knowing that Kyle Shanahan loves to be able to have the screen game and the play action and have a running game that can really control the clock. I go back to also a conversation we had about Robert Saleh and how many guys were so jacked to have him back there and the difference maker that he was. Is there a spot in this schedule where you feel that we see last year rear its ugly head outside of injuries? I don't see a stretch here that is so daunting. Outside of Texans, Giants, Rams there, just in the middle, everything feels very manageable. Even after the bye, Titans, Colts on Monday Night Football, Bears at home for Sunday. Like it all feels pretty manageable for them, at least up until their bye.
And I would say this, if you do like them to hit that over, and the schedule does look very manageable, I would just say then you bet them to win the division, right? And you can get them at plus $1.45, can get them at plus $1.10. Because I think 11 wins in this division probably is going to be good enough to win it. So you get a little bit better price point there, plus $1.45 to win the West. But again, injuries are the one thing that we just cannot account for. That's why they went 6-11 a year ago. But the schedule, if we're being honest, on paper, it looks as easy a schedule as you're going to get top to bottom in the NFL if the division is down. Maybe the division's better. Maybe Seattle's not going to take a step back. Maybe the Rams are what we saw at the end of the year last year into the postseason. And maybe Arizona's ready to take that next step. Those would get you to underplays. But if you really think that San Francisco is still the cream of the crop there in the division, bet them at plus $1.45 instead of the win total at plus $1.10. How about staying out west? Let's go to the AFC. Denver. They're the second betting choice. Can you believe that? Past the Chargers now to usurp the Chiefs in the AFC West. Now, you look at this schedule, and early on it looks good, right? You get the Titans at home. You got to go to Indy. Kind of feel like they might be a little bit down here. And then it's going to get tougher. Chargers, Bengals, Eagles. And then you're going overseas to play the London game, and those can be tricky. Win total sitting at 9.5. Boy, that 3-game stretch right in that first half, if you're watching at VSiN.com of the Ledger, that looks pretty tough, and there are some really tricky spots throughout this entire schedule.
I go to the end because if they're in contention, oh my God, after the bye, you got to go to Washington for Sunday Night Football. A tricky division game, as always, against the Raiders. And what will Pete Carroll's bunch look like at that point? The Packers, who we all believe could be in contention not only for their division title, but potentially a top seed in the NFC. Jaguars, we'll see. The Chiefs on Christmas at Arrowhead, I mean, it could be 10 degrees there, and, who knows. And then maybe the early favorite for the Sunday Night Football final game of the year, win and in scenario, Chargers, Broncos, knowing what this division could look like. That finishing stanza, not for the faint-hearted. And I'm telling you, from a Survivor standpoint, they're going to be as popular, if not the most popular team. Week 1, rookie quarterback, on the road, Mile High. I mean, that's
it's glaring.
Again, it's probably the right play.
It is glaring.
Oh, that's scary to think about.
It is, and then because you're going up against, as you mentioned, with Cam Ward and a rookie quarterback, and normally those things, you don't want to back a rookie quarterback certainly on the road in Week 1. So it does feel like Survivor. That's going to be a really popular play. Week 1 would be Denver hosting the Tennessee Titans. One other team to get at is Houston. And speaking of the Titans in that same division, Houston's been that team, Jensen, that's been able to go worst to first with C.J. Stroud, and D'Amico Ryan's done a great job. And then I think the more impressive part is they won it again. They went back-to-back as division champs. I know it didn't look as good in the middle part of the year here, and the division really was down last year. They only won 10 games, and they kind of won this division relatively easily. But I was impressed at the end of the year. I was impressed even in defeat against Kansas City in the postseason. I felt like this team was getting better even without some of the issues. They had a lot of issues with injuries at the wide receiver position. Jensen, I'm actually more impressed with Houston in defeat last year in the postseason. I might look to play their over, even money at 9.5.
Well, if that happens, Dave, then they at least split in the first 2 weeks. You get a win against either the Rams or the Bucks. You run the table there against the Jags and the Titans, and if you get 2 division road wins there, boy, nice head of steam into what we believe will be a critical game not only early season, but maybe in the AFC playoff picture when you got to go to Baltimore. 3 straight road. How about that? 4 of your first 5 on the road, and then you get your bye. Oh, by the way, let's send you right back out on the road to go to Seattle.
Will they ever play in Houston?
And again, yeah, no, I think that's where my handicap for them begins is I want to see that stretch at home when they have San Francisco, you have Denver and Jacksonville. And again, not for the faint of heart there either. That's still a very tough stretch. So, I like to put my survivor hat on here. I think you target them week 4. That's the easy one. That's the low-hanging fruit. Do you even venture going, with them on the road in Jacksonville, in week 3? There's not a lot of spot because again, I only preface that, Dave, with there's not a lot of spots after the bye where you're like, yeah, I could, maybe at home against Jacksonville, but still a divisional game. You and I both preach to people. You don't like to do those division matchups.
Right.
You're not going to take them at home against Buffalo. Depending on where Arizona and Vegas are in week 15 and 16, that's a tough team to target anywhere and map out for survivor purposes.
Yeah, again, we'll find out how these teams shift as the year goes on, but I'm looking right where you are. That if I were to look at them at survivor, you hope you're still around at week 16 because you feel like the Raiders coming to Houston might be the spot that you want to pull the trigger on. You got to wait a long time to use that survivor play.
Yep.
But again, early on, I don't want to play them, obviously, on the road. I don't like those early season matchups on the road. Look really tough off the jump. It could be a team that if you think they're going to struggle out of the gate, wait for that adjusted win total to come down, maybe to 8.5 if they really get off on a bad foot, 7.5, then maybe come back in over the top if you don't like that win total at 9.5 right now, but it is even money. So don't hate it. I just trust that team. A lot of times, Jensen, for me, if I'm betting futures markets, I'm betting quarterbacks and I'm betting head coaches. I think I trust both those guys.
Yeah, I would agree. It's just one of those schedules you look at and you're like, woo, that is a tough road to hoe if you are the Texans for sure.
You look at some of the other ones like maybe the Niners schedule and go, boy, give that schedule to the Texans, and I definitely bet the over because it looks a little bit tougher than certainly what San Francisco has. You got to check out the betting splits before you make those wagers each and every day. Jensen does a great job keeping an eye on those for us here on VSiN By The Books. It's $9.99. That's for as little your very first month. You can get started right now, VSiN.com/subscribe. You get access from those betting splits behind me here at Circa and also DraftKings. So no better time than the present. Go to VSiN.com/subscribe and become a part of the Sports Betting Network.
You're tuned in to VSiN By The Books right here on VSiN.
We're going to catch up with Will Hill at the top of hour number 3, talking all things NBA postseason. Rachel Doerrie is going to join us in hour number 3, talking all things NHL postseason, down to the Final Four in the NBA and the NHL. Really an exciting time. There's never really a slow time. Maybe now in Major League Baseball, you can start to really see some of these teams taking shape. And Jensen, you've done a really good job of making that profitable. So without further ado, let's get to today's edition of the Daily Diamond. Okay, when you win, and again, this is a hard thing to do, people, what we do each and every day. You've got to smell the flowers sometimes. Just take a little time, walk outside and go, some of that hard work paid off, Jensen. You did an amazing job. Last week, almost 15 units up when you combined Torpedo Bat Tuesday with Wednesday, and you had a really nice whiff Wednesday with some of those pitchers with that free air conditioning with Garrett Crochet and Chris Sale that paid off big time last week.
Yeah, it was fun, and again, to sweep Torpedo Bat Tuesday was really cool as well. A couple of different ladders last week. We had the Bryce Harper total bases, almost got all the way home with the first swing of his day against Eric Fetty. Remember, flew out to the warning track to cash that whole ladder with one swing. The Sale Crochet strikeout parlay, really nice for us. and that ultimately got us into the green for Whiff Wednesday. So let's do it again. Push all that to the side, and let's rock and roll today as well.
I've mentally checked out on the Cincinnati Reds after losing 2 out of 3 to the White Sox. I, of course, saw that they've won 4 in a row. I don't want to get too excited, Jensen. Can they keep it going today, maybe against the Buccos?
Yeah, great matchups here. And so the headline for me today, and we combine a couple of games here, steer the ship, nice and Nico. And here's what we mean by that. Spencer Steer has had great numbers against Mitch Keller, 6 for 16, 3 doubles and a homer. Nico Horner up against Eddie Cabrera for the Marlins, 5 for 8 with a pair of doubles as well. So here's how we went. 2 or more hits, runs, RBI for plus $1.20 right now on DraftKings. That for Spencer Steer. And then Nico Horner, 2 more total bases. I'm kind of shocked to see this number. Plus $1.60. Absolutely will hop on that considering what the career numbers have been for Nico. So again, a couple of spots we target guys that have had good history against their opposing starting pitchers for today. So let's get off on the right foot with both those guys.
Again, Cincinnati going on the road, taking on the Buccos. The Cubs on the road down there in South Beach taking on the Fighting Fish. Boy, the Cubs, I know it was part of your handicap why you hopped in on them mid-month in May, was part of this scheduling, sweeping the White Sox at home. That was, you don't want to say to be expected, but that's part of what you're counting on there. Nico Horner, this lineup looks like it's the real deal because the pitching is suspect for Chicago, but yet the bats are really carrying them right now, Jensen.
They are, and that was why, kind of from an overall National League outlook, do you trust the Cubs, not only from an offensive standpoint, to stay the course, but do they have enough pitching? And with the loss of Justin Steele for the year, they should get Shota Imanaga back here in the next week or so. Will they be aggressive at the deadline, knowing that they will only have Kyle Tucker for the rest of this season if they don't get a extension done? Pico Armstrong, I know Mitch Moss has a big-time future on him for MVP. Overall, according to Fangraphs, the number 6 player as far as position guys go, trails his teammate Kyle Tucker, who's number 3. You got that top of the lineup going the way Seiya Suzuki is swinging the bat. You're going to beat a lot of teams.
Drafted by the Mets. That one's going to sting for a while with PCA, the way he's playing right now on the north side of Chicago. One of the best comedies out there, Dodgeball. What do you have today off that theme?
All right, if you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball. And I think Brandon Pfaadt is going to have to be dodging a lot here with the course history, if you will, when he goes up against the LA Dodgers at Chavez Ravine. It does not help his case that he's got a couple of guys that are absolutely scorching hot. How about Freddie Freeman leads Major League Baseball in total hits for the last 2 weeks, basically. And, oh, by the way, the guy leading off, Shohei Ohtani, leads Major League Baseball in homers. Here's what we wanted to do. Let's go 2 or more total. By the way, some of the prices for Ohtani are just ridiculous. I wanted to originally go to score a run, but it's minus 220. We're not going to do that. Let's go 2 or more total bases, minus $1.45. Let's go Freddie Freeman, 2 or more total bases at even money. And it's not out yet because I think they're waiting for lineups to be released. But Kike Hernandez has really good career numbers against Brandon Pfaadt. And so if he's in there, man, do not play this lotto unless Kike is in the starting lineup. If you want to drop it down to just 2 legs, that's fine with Mookie and Will Smith. So at the very minimum, we'll play Mookie Betts and Will Smith parlay together, have 2 more total bases. If Kike Hernandez is starting tonight, add him in. That makes our lotto ticket.
D-bac's going to begin this series just 4 games back. By the way, the Dodgers, after getting swept over the weekend by the Angels, just a 1-game lead right now over the Padres and the Giants in that division. Give me what you got here, speaking of those Angels and that sweep against the Rockies starting that series today.
They're good, right? I mean, we all had that one circled, the Angels sweeping their Freeway Series rival, the LA Dodgers. But it's a guy that is playing for Colorado. We talk about making money on bad teams. I'm good, man. And I want to do it here in this spot with the Rockies returning home against those Angels. Hunter Goodman. Many people may not know who that is right now. Catcher here for the Colorado Rockies, plays some outfield as well. His last 15 games have been pretty good, hitting over 370. He's hit nearly 300 there at Coors Field, 5 doubles, 2 homers, 13 runs batted in. They go up against the Phillies, the Rockies do, and Christopher Sanchez, who's been a tough customer from the left side. However, Hunter Goodman, solid against righties and solid against lefties. So the matchup doesn't concern me. 2 or more total bases plus $1.10. And Trey Turner going up against Kyle Freeland, who will start for the Rockies, Dave. His number's already elevated on DraftKings, so he's getting to the thin air. So we're going to go 3+ hits, runs, RBI, and that's minus $1.35. Just to throw it out there. It is a lot of elevated prices here in the thin air of Coors Field.
Boy, that's what we're expecting, some runs there, and certainly at the top of the lineup with Trey Turner. We know you are always on the call here for some great college baseball action. What do you have here as we get closer and closer to the College World Series?
Yeah, we got conference tournaments that get underway this week. So the regular season for men's college baseball in the books. The 16 regional sites, for people not familiar with how the College World Series format works, you'll have 16 regional sites where 4 teams will be. Those number 1 seeds will be those regional host site teams. That will get announced for us on Sunday, May 25th. And then a week from today, Dave, we get the field of 64 announced in full. That'll be right around noontime Eastern on Monday morning. Take a look at the futures board for people that want to jump in on it. And we'll be out there in Omaha. Myself, Stormy, JVT for Money Moves coming up here in a few weeks. I would look to these handful of teams right now where the numbers are. Arkansas has been outstanding all year, one of the best offenses in college baseball. Go along with LSU, likely going to be a host site there in Baton Rouge. Tennessee may have to be on the road, but the defending champs, they have a good number for them. They were around 4-5 to 1 at the beginning of the season, so that's drifted a little bit, but Tony Vitello's team going to be very, very solid no matter where they end up. And then the North Carolina Tar Heels. You remember our great friend Lou Finicaro talking about the SEC versus the ACC. Now, Georgia Tech is going to probably be a host site too. We'll see how that plays out. But North Carolina has been very, very solid. They can pitch with anybody, and I think they may have enough offense. So a great number to get them. They will host the Chapel Hill Regional in all likelihood, and perhaps have a very nice matchup in what could be a very entertaining Super Regional as well.
Obviously, we always think of when you see the field of 64 now in college basketball, it's 68. What do you make of the baseball version of it? Do you like it, and do you like that when you get to the best of 3 as you kind of wheel down the field as it keeps going? Do you like the way that they do it in college baseball?
It is fascinating to see, and being a part of it myself in my Vanderbilt days, the strategy in the regional setup, especially for the 1 seeds, because most of those 4 seeds are not as deep, if you will. But for our iteration, when we went to the Charlottesville Regional in 2004, we were the 2 seed. Virginia was the 1 seed. And a guy by the name, I think I told you this, Ross Ollendorf, who was the ace for Princeton, went out and beat Virginia in that first game. So that dropped the host team, Virginia, into the losers bracket. So it's a double elimination setup in the regional, and they had to try and make their way through. We beat them in the regional final in that first game of it. And so we moved on to the Austin Super Regional against old friend Houston Street and the Texas Longhorns. So I love the setup here. We are going to have a very heavy SEC, ACC field, but there are some sleepers. And throughout Daily Diamond this week, we'll give some people some teams to look at maybe from a long shot or value perspective, but can't wait to get it underway, man. A week from today, we get the field of 64.
Awesome. Love the enthusiasm. Can't wait for that. That's going to be very exciting here. And as you always do, give us some long shot plays there that maybe you can figure out a way to cash some tickets in the College World Series. You want to come out to Circa? If you haven't done it before, you need to do it. It's pretty incredible. 2-night stay with this summer package that they have right now. It's going to go through September 4th. You're going to get all of your resort fees and taxes taken care of as well. So for $400 for 2 nights, not only you stay at Circa, you get a $100 dining credit, $100 beverage credit, and a daybed at Stadium Swim. I think that's as one of the better deals that I've seen out here. So check it out at circalasvegas.com.
Tuned in to VSiN By The Books, right here on VSiN.
We're back, VSiN By The Books. Dave Ross and Jensen Lewis here on the Monday morning edition of. We're going to get to the great Will Hill to begin hour number 3 here, talking all things NBA. Break down the beginning of those years. I know we can't wait for those. Feels like we've been waiting. Indiana and New York, they're not even going to jump ball here until Wednesday, but we do get OKC and Minnesota tomorrow. So we'll break that down with Will. Hockey, we're going to catch up with Rachel Dory in hour 3, Toronto, it's all over for the Maple Leafs, but now I think the focus will start to shift to whether or not Florida can reign and defend and make it a 2-time back-to-back Stanley Cup champion as they dispatched Toronto last night 6-1. But for right now, in another league that has begun, it's time to begin this edition of News or Noise.
Is it news?
Corleone is a man who insists on hearing bad news immediately.
Or just noise?
Are you going to act like this is news? Just noise. This is noise.
Let's separate the impactful from the insignificant with one simple question. News or noise?
And one thing about the WNBA, they don't lack for headlines, Jensen. They seem to figure out a way to get people talking about them, and it's normally around two people. It's normally around Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese. We saw it again. They got in a little skirmish on the court. Caitlin with a hard foul. Angel got all upset. Caitlin's like, what are you talking, afterward. But yet, the bigger storyline was she just messed around, got a triple-double. And now I think the Indiana Fever are starting to look at Caitlin Clark and saying, yeah, they might win the title this year. I know A'ja Wilson, Vegas, they're going to have something to say about it as well. New York, other good teams out there. But now with that, she goes out there in a high-profile game because it's against Angel Reese, and you start to look at the MVP numbers, and you go, is this a fair fight? Because it does look like, and I'll ask the question, is it news or noise? Will Caitlin Clark build an Aaron Judge-type lead for MVP in that narrative that gets built up in the betting public?
Probably not, but if she gets off to the start that, and no apples to apples, but apples to oranges in so many ways, if she's averaging the triple-double, if she's having some of these major point performances, if she's hitting from three, like if you're getting some of these logo threes that we saw in college, much in the same way we get some of these moonshot, homers from Aaron Judge, then I could see that narrative. But just because of how the media portrays the WNBA, I don't think we get there. And it's unfortunate. It really is. But to me, I think she goes out and she does what she needs to do. I would look more towards what's the date? If she's doing what she's capable of, what's the date that the Fever become the favorite, the outright betting favorite to win the WNBA title? Because right now, what are they, plus 350, I think, to win the championship? So, are we weeks away if they get started really hot? And where does that number end up, maybe like at the All-Star break?
Right now, she's plus $1.75 to win the MVP. Vegas will struggle in their opener with A'ja Wilson, of course. So she's distanced herself a little bit from A'ja to begin the year. And what happens is, the next time she did that triple-double, as you mentioned, but the double-double in that win over Chicago, 9th time she's already registered 20 points and 10 assists in a game. That already puts her one away from establishing the WNBA record. I know the league hasn't been around super long, but that's what starts to happen when she starts to do these things that haven't been done in the league yet. She's going to start breaking some of those records or setting some of those records, and that's going to be used in the fodder for MVP. So would you rather play Indiana at the bigger shot to win the title at over $3 or play plus $1.75 that she wins the MVP? Because I do think there's clearly a world where, as long as it's not Vegas, because if Vegas beats them and A'ja Wilson is the best player, then she can still win a MVP for A'ja Wilson. But if it's not Vegas and Indiana doesn't win it, I think she would still be very much in play, obviously, to win the MVP. They don't have to be correlated, do they?
I don't think so. And anxious to kind of see, as I said, when you get through these first, let's say the first month, all right, and she's out to maybe close to averaging a triple-double. That's why I think that Fever price ends up being more unbettable than where she is for MVP, because I do think she's going to have some company at least in the first month.
I tend to agree with you. So there are different ways to play that market. But again, I'm also with you that at some point this might be odds on. She's going to get odds on. So if you want to grab the $1.75 right now for MVP, probably not going to get mad at you for making that short bet, even though it's the shortest one on the board right now, as she's the clear runaway favorite. All right, the big news, obviously, yesterday was Scottie Scheffler winning down in Carolina at Quail Hollow. So he gets his third major championship. He gets his 15th PGA Tour win. Does count as a tour win as well. And he becomes only the third guy to do that before the age of 29 since the World War II era. Those other two guys, you might have heard of them. Jack Nicklaus, Tiger Woods. Here endeth the list. I mean, it's an amazing list to be on. Now, I mentioned he did it in Carolina. So since 2022, Scottie Scheffler now has 15 wins on the PGA Tour. Doing that at Quail Hollow, the PGA Tour had put out a tweet that said, when in Charlotte, win since 2022, Scottie Scheffler 15, Carolina Panthers 14. He's beaten the Panthers by himself on the PGA Tour versus wins by the organization. That tweet got taken down, Jensen. PGA Tour took that one down. I didn't know the backstory of this, but apparently the Panthers owner, David Tepper, a member at Quail Hollow. Ouch. I wonder if there's a little talking to, but can't we have a little bit of fun? Do you have to take the tweet down? Is that not acceptable?
You don't. I mean, and again, where would you compare this in the Tyreek Hill situation with the schedule release, right?
Yes.
The PGA Tour, to put that up, they're not wrong.
No.
And so let's get the facts out there. They're not wrong. I'm always there for a little motivating social media. I'm here for the theatrics, and I think you had said it, and it bears repeating. David Tepper, not the guy that you feel you can dip over, the deep end of the diving board and be like, how far are we going to go here? All that being said, you brought up, and this is a phenomenal way to look if you're a futures bettor in golf. Would you say that right now, in some places, to win the Masters next year,
plus 360,
Scottie is okay? He's 5-1 at FanDuel right now. Yeah, if you want to parlay him with something else right now to increase, you would do it now. Because if he keeps winning, you said it, he could win the career Grand Slam this year. If he does that, that number is no longer available anywhere you look.
And look, with all due respect to Rory McIlroy, what he did last month at Augusta, and just the outpouring of support for Rory. And I was one of those people too. It was great. We waited a decade for Rory to complete the career Grand Slam at Augusta and finally get that green jacket. If Scottie, and by the way, Scottie's already the betting favorite next month at Oakmont, the U.S. Open. I'll be curious to see at Portrush at the Open Championship, because that is another tailor-made for Rory McIlroy golf course. Of course, that's where Shane Lowry won the Open Championship at Portrush. These are Northern Irishmen right there. They know the area very, very well. But I still think if Scottie was able to complete the career Grand Slam this year by winning the final 3, I'm sorry, Rory, it kind of puts the accomplishment way in the back burner. And it does feel like it's a little bit muzzled with Scottie when he wins. There's not the same outpouring. You almost got the feeling people were rooting for Bryson and or John Rahm yesterday when you're watching the telecast. I don't know why that is. Maybe Scottie just doesn't do it with the panache as some of these other guys do, but the history is there. And oh, by the way, he's going to tee it up this week at the Charles Schwab. He's plus 250 to win this week. The next betting choice is Jordan Spieth at 22 to 1. 22 to 1 is what a chasm. Plus 250 to 22 to 1 with Scottie Scheffler. And by the way, I wouldn't bet against him, even though he just won yesterday. It's insane.
It's just wild, dude. That's wild. Okay, so the only way you can do it, and I'll be anxious to ask Will Hill on this if he's a fan. Do you take any of these Final Four NBA teams, to win the series and parlay it with Scottie to get those odds up? If you think he's winning back-to-back weeks. I
mean, look, last time he teed it up in Dallas, he wins by 9. Now he tees it up at the PGA, wins by 5. Plus 250 to 22 to 1? This is Tiger Woods stuff we're talking about here. But this is incredible what we're seeing in the odds market with Scottie Scheffler week in and week out. Right now, $199. It's going to become a VSiN Pro subscriber, it's going to get you 2 extra months for free. That's 14 months by using the promo code PRO when you go to VSiN.com/subscribe. Daily best bets, exclusive betting splits, VSiN Watch app access, and the NFL betting guide. Get excited. It's right around the corner. Also around the corner, Will Hill joins us next at the top of hour number 3.